Rob Maness is here with us, a retired U.S. Air Force colonel, and was in the Pentagon during the 9/11 terror attacks. Colonel, thanks so much for being with us. We do appreciate that. Every year is difficult on this day and the reflection. And you have a different vantage point. We often talk a lot about the Twin Towers that once stood, but we also recognize the Pentagon and the 184 that lost their lives. Also, for those that rushed in to help those that were injured on that day, can you reflect for our viewers, September 11, 2001, where were you?
Well, thank you very much, Sean, for having me on. Let me first extend my condolences to Charlie Kirk and his family. We lost a great American who believed in debate for resolving our differences instead of violence like the Islamists brought to America on 9/11. And that day, yesterday, will change America forever, just like 9/11 did. Look, I was at work in the Pentagon inside the National Military Command Center at the time all the attacks started to occur. And you look, we just went to work when we saw that these were actual attacks on the United States of America. Our job was to start coordinating the response and find out who did it. I was honored and privileged to get the opportunity to do that. But that day, all of us that stayed in the building and then later evacuated out of the building were just what I saw and witnessed from other Americans and from immigrants even that had stopped on the highway was amazing. The response to save people's lives, get people evacuated, and then a few hundred of us went back inside the building to get into the courtyard so we could fight the fire and look for other survivors near the crash site where I worked, right where the cockpit stopped in between the B and C rings for most of the rest of that day. Those folks that I was able to work with were just absolutely wonderful Americans, and they displayed the courage that Americans always display at a time of crisis. If you think about it, most of us were in uniform, but some retired military that were now government civilians. The headquarters of the most powerful armed forces in the history of mankind had just been struck by a strategic attack, and we didn't know who the enemy was, and we didn't know what was going to come next. And every one of those men and women, to a person, voluntarily stayed, took care of the wounded, made sure they were transported, took care of the crash site, got to help get the fire out until we were ordered out of the building later that evening. And then the next day, I went right back to work in the Nuclear Operations Division in the National Military Command Center and was honored and privileged to be asked to help put the plan together and find out who did this and then put the response plan together and give that advice to the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States as part of that team. It was amazing, and courage is what Americans do. That's what Charlie Kirk stood for, and what he did was go to places and talk to people that opposed the view of America, and he convinced and persuaded a lot of them through that, and we're very proud to be friends with him.
Wow. Wow. Just hearing you recount what happened that day, I mean, it really speaks to the American fighting spirit and willingness to rush into danger to help fellow Americans. So thank you for bringing us back to that moment. And you're right, even tying it to present day, where there would have been, members of Charlie's own security team who rushed toward him to assist. And of course, the powerful prayers that would have been lifting him up during that very intense moment when we weren't sure what was going to happen next. That came from all across the country. If we just wanted to leave with this, Rob, maybe a message that you'd like to share with Charlie Kirk's family, understanding that you did share a relationship of sorts with him, or at least the messages that he shared with curious college students.
Yeah, Charlie's greatest attribute, in my opinion, was his faith in Jesus Christ and his willingness to talk about that faith, but talk about it in the context of the United States of America and what America stands for. And he used those ideas and knew them very well to persuade people that opposed him and opposed his ideas on these college campuses. When I met him, he was still a teen. He had just started Turning Point USA, and he was going to campuses where I wanted to go as a U.S. Senate candidate in those days. And I was being told by consultants, those people are never going to vote for you. Well, they did vote, and they voted for Donald Trump in 2024. And Charlie Kirk and his team and those of us that support him are the reason why they did that. His faith as a Christian is the key to all of that success, though. And that's what I would leave with them is have faith that you will see him again. He's waiting for us, and I'm sure in some way he will talk God into influencing the events of the future. And 1 million Charlie Kirks were made again yesterday, and it's going to be even more impressive what happens with America as we.
Absolutely. Leaving a lasting legacy, speaking about Charlie Kirk and what he leaves behind. We do appreciate the time of Rob Maness, Colonel Rob Maness, who was in the Pentagon when that was struck, and speaking about not only that, but again, the assassination on Charlie Kirk. Colonel, thank you for that. We appreciate it.